the programming that your dad wanted to run because they figured it was too controversial or something. And I wondered what that programming might have been. Do you think it would have been a radio play?
Oh, no, I think that was, but he wanted to, he was going to bring in the Winnipeg Ballet. They were going to do Peer Gynt. They got banned or something. And he was going to bring him to Sudbury to perform. And they all of a sudden somebody got caught a cold and they couldn't travel. But it was pressure that if he came to Sudbury and performed to the Mindmill Hall, he wouldn't be going anyplace else. So they got cold feet. So the radio, there was, Sudbury had the first private television station, okay? And then it had, so that was just up off Pine Street, that was CKSO. That's where they were located. Then down on Elm Street, if you went down across from the courthouse, the radio stations were down there. That was CHNO and CFRB. They were owned by, I'm drawing a blank here, Baxter Ricard and his wife, Elma Ricard. And they became very prosperous. They parlayed their radio stations into 2 TV stations in Sudbury, a cable network, and all the radio stations.
Wow! And they were local people? Were they local people?
They were local people. Yeah.
Wow.
If you look at when they passed away.
Yeah.
Well, when he passed away, they created the Elma and Baxter Ricard Foundation. And to promote education around Francophone youth, and they would give you up to $50,000 or $25,000 a year. I forget what it was. $50,000. And they didn't. They just, if you went on to secondary, post-secondary education, and no matter where you went in the world, whether you're going to MIT or you're a Francophone, they would give you $50,000. You could pay for your tuition, your housing, whatever.
My gosh.
It's still around. Paul Demera, who's from Sudbury, also put some money into that foundation, but they endowed a big chunk of cash there. So he owned that. And if you continued further on down Elm Street, down to Food Road and Elm, comes the old Sudbury Star building right next to the Nickel Range.
Oh, that's where the Sudbury Star is. Oh, that's good to know.
That was the original building
there.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then they moved over onto Mackenzie Street. They built a new building over there.
Yeah.
Right across from the library.
Right, but in '58 it probably would have been at Elm and Fruit.
58 Elm, I believe it was. I believe it was, yes.
Right. Okay. So, so there was all of that development in the way of new media with the rise of television and all of that. And so I just wonder if your dad had an idea to use it for his drama interests.
I don't think so. No. It was pretty controlled. He was you got to remember, after about 52, the Sudbury Star was controlled by Lord Thompson. He bought it for $1 million. And then Jimmy Meeks, who was the publisher here in town, he still had an interest in it.
Right.
And he ran it until the early 70s when he finally left.
Okay. Now that name Meeks shows up in relation to the material on the dance school because there's a Betty Meeks who's writing all the reviews of the dance recitals. Are they related?
Yes. Betty was Jimmy Meeks' wife.
Okay.
And she used to come. She took dancing lessons at the Mindmill Hall. She was always out and about. Her and the photographer Mike Dudowich, they were always out and about in the community, the different events. They were in those days. The press covered everything in town, like the dance recitals, ball games. It was everything was covered.
Yeah.
So they were always out. You'd always bump into a photographer, a reporter from the Star.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that name again of the photographer that you
It's
have?
Mike Dudowich.
Mike Dudowich. Okay.
And he was a very good photographer, very good photographer.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's good. I'll watch for that name in the archival documents. I think it comes up in a number of places. That's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. Okay. So, coming back to your dad, how consciously motivated do you think he was in developing these cultural activities as a sort of counter to all that Cold War red baiting, attacks on the Union, all of that stuff? Do you think that was sort of a strategic move on his part?
Well, I think I think so. I said because there was nothing here, no one was doing anything. Mm-hmm. He saw the void and he filled it in. So we had got a dance school and drama clubs. They supported ball teams and hockey teams and soccer teams.
Right.
They built the camp, and as because there was nothing here, the community, the companies had their own recreational facilities for management and for staff, but there was nothing really that for everyone, and they did it. Like now, the city of Sudbury does some stuff here on that, but in those days, there was nothing. So we just and coming from his background was there was a need for it, and he built it up.
Yeah, right.
So I don't think that stuff was not delivered ideologically. There was a need here, and that's what he was good at, and he did it.
Yeah, and that's what he was hired to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. I think I read Niels Thibault, who was the president for the longest time.
Yes.
He was. It was interesting. It was an interview that he did with Mike Solsky. So Solsky was interviewing Thibault, and it was I think it was mid-'80s or so. It was shortly before Thibault passed away. Anyway, they were talking about the cultural activities, and Thibault said that they were what Mine Mill established, and really under your dad and mum's hard labor. It was so unique that the presidents and vice presidents and sort of other executive members of unions in the States came up to take a look.
Yeah, they did.
What do you remember about that?
Well, I remember that Mine Mill used to represent the workers at the steel mills in Buffalo. I remember children coming from the Buffalo local of Mine Mill coming up to the Mine Mill camp, and there was people coming from the United Electrical workers. They came up. I remember that they had camps too. The auto workers. There was a group coming in all the time. Okay.
Yeah, of kids, but also of union
executives. Yeah.
Right. To take a look.
Yeah.
To take a look. Yeah. And well, I think the auto workers certainly set up some cultural stuff I think it might have even been in the early 70s, maybe it was late 60s, on Lake Huron. They had they still have it, that big center.
They do, they do.
So maybe that was inspired by what they saw at Mine Mill?
They might have, yes. And they were pretty the United Auto Workers were pretty progressive union.
Yes.
It was still an international union in those days. It was still. I think Walter Reuther was still president, but they were a pretty active union.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
So yes.
They were interested. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So I'm curious, Paul. How much of the history of the antagonisms between Mine Mill and steel workers that went on for so long, do you notice any evidence of that today? Is that still lingering in any way?
I don't think so. There could be people around that remember it. A lot of people are dead because that's 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And the only guys that be around that might remember anything is Robin MacArthur, myself, Diane Thibault.
Yeah.
There's few people around that remembered. It's